Hey everyone, and welcome to the Deep Dive. We're diving into the future today, like way into the future, to 2025.
Sounds exciting.
It is. We're talking about the job skills that are going to be like super important by then. And to do that, we're checking out Coursera's Job Skills Report 2025.
Yeah, I've seen that one. It uses data from millions of learners, so it's pretty comprehensive.
Right. So it gives a really good look at what companies, universities, and governments are, focusing on.
Definitely. It's a great resource for anyone who wants to stay ahead of the curve.
Okay, so first up, get this. Demand for generative AI skills has gone up like a crazy amount, 866% year over year.
Whoa, that's massive. I mean, we all knew GenAI was going to be big, but that's huge.
It's insane. Employers are definitely looking for people who know, how to use GenAI.
Yeah, it's not just hype anymore.
Yeah.
This report just shows how serious it is. GenAI has the potential to add trillions, like literally trillions, to the global economy by 2030.
Trillions. That's mind-blowing. And what's really interesting is that more than half the people, learning GenAI are from India, Colombia, and Mexico.
Yeah, that's a really important trend to highlight. It shows how technology is making education and opportunities more accessible globally. We're seeing this global talent pool for AI really emerge and shift.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But, what about other AI skills, like beyond just GenAI?
Oh, absolutely. Beyond GenAI, skills like computer vision, PyTorch, machine learning are also becoming super important. I mean, these are the building blocks of, pretty much all AI, so they're critical for all sorts of industries.
Right, so even if you're not, aiming for a purely technical job,
Yeah.
having some AI knowledge is a good idea.
I definitely agree with that. AI is being used everywhere now, from healthcare to finance to entertainment. Even a basic understanding of AI makes you a much stronger candidate for any job.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've talked about AI. The report also talks about, data ethics.
Yeah, data ethics is super important these days with all this data everywhere. And it's interesting, employees and students are showing a lot of interest, but job seekers, not so much.
Really? Why do you think that is?
It's a good question. It could be that job seekers are focusing more on technical skills, but data ethics is something that organizations are becoming really concerned about, especially when it comes to data security and, using data responsibly.
So, if you can demonstrate some data ethics knowledge, it could really help you stand out from the crowd.
Absolutely. It shows that you're not just skilled, but also responsible. And I think, in today's world, that's really important.
Makes sense. Okay, let's switch gears a bit and talk about risk management, especially with all these cyber attacks happening.
Yeah, that 75% spike in attacks in, Q3 2024 was pretty alarming.
Definitely. And the fact that almost every organization had some sort of data breach last year is, kind of scary.
It is. And a lot of organizations are struggling to protect their AI-generated data, which, there's only going to be more of that data in the future.
Right. And that's where risk management and cybersecurity skills become super valuable.
Absolutely. Having a deep understanding of those areas can make you a really valuable asset to any organization right now.
It's like job security in a crazy world. Okay, but what about those traditional business skills? Are they still important with all this focus on tech?
Oh, they definitely are. But even they're getting a tech makeover. Think about HR technology, stakeholder communication, even risk management in a business context. They're all becoming super important.
So it's not enough to just be good with people. You have to be good with people and tech.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. But there's something I found kind of interesting. Students are embracing those sustainability skills, like waste management, disaster recovery, but, not so much those traditional human skills like communication or assertiveness.
That's really interesting. You'd think those human skills would be even more important with, all the talk about AI taking over jobs.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised, too. I think it speaks to the need for personal development, even in a tech-driven world. Those human skills are super important for leadership, teamwork, building relationships, all those things.
You're so right.
Yeah.
Okay, before we finish up this part, let's take a quick look at some regional trends. The report breaks down the data by region, and I'm curious to see, what stands out?
Sure. Let's start with Latin America and the Caribbean. It's really cool to see skills related to media planning and media strategy, surging in that region.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, maybe it reflects their growing influence in entertainment.
Right, they're saying, hey, watch out, world, we're coming with awesome content.
Exactly. And it's not just about the creative side. They're also focusing on, practical stuff like risk management and risk mitigation. So it's a good balance.
That's awesome. Okay, what about Asia Pacific? What's happening there?
Well, As you might expect, with their fast pace of innovation, the Asia-Pacific region is all about risk mitigation and control. It's like they're saying, we're going to dream big and take risks, but we're going to do it smartly.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, what about Europe?
Europe is really leading the charge in data ethics. It's the top data science skill there, which aligns perfectly with their focus on data privacy and security.
Right, they've got GDPR, which sets a pretty high standard for data protection.
It does, and it's not just about compliance. They're also really into information management, making sure they're using data efficiently for, making better decisions and improving collaboration.
So smart. Okay, how about North America, the land of, Silicon Valley?
Yeah, as you'd expect, North America is all about AI and machine learning. But they're also focused on workforce development, project management, and of course, risk mitigation and control.
So they're not just focused on the tech, but also on the people and the processes.
Exactly. It's a strategic approach, really thinking about the future. Okay, one last region. How about the Middle East and North Africa? They're going through a ton of changes, both economically and socially.
Right. What's going on there?
Compliance training is huge there. I mean, it makes sense with them trying to diversify their economies and attract foreign investment. They need to meet those international standards,
Yeah, it's about building trust and credibility.
Exactly. And another big focus for them is budgeting, which makes sense with all the economic development and big projects happening there.
Okay, so we just went on, a global tour of job skill trends. It's fascinating to see how each region has its own unique challenges and priorities, but also, these common threads running through everything.
Totally. No matter where you are, skills like AI, data ethics, cybersecurity, and communication are becoming essential.
It really shows how interconnected the world is becoming, right?
It does, and it highlights why it's so important to, stay informed and be willing to adapt and keep learning. Now, before we jump into the next part of our deep dive, I wanted to circle back to cybersecurity for a second.
Yeah, it's definitely a big one. The report showed just how crucial those cybersecurity skills are becoming. It's not just about protecting data, it's about, protecting everything digital.
Exactly, and you need specialized knowledge for that. We saw that 6 of the top 10 fastest growing tech skills are all about cybersecurity, stuff like incident management and response, threat management and modeling. Even SIEM.
Oh, SIEM, what was that again? I always forget.
It stands for Security Information and Event Management. It's basically a system that helps organizations analyze, all their security data in real time, so they can detect and respond to threats quickly.
Ah, right. It's like a super sophisticated alarm system for your entire digital network.
Exactly. And not only that, but SIEM systems can also help organizations, look at past security incidents, to see if there are any patterns or vulnerabilities so they can strengthen their defenses.
That's so cool. It's like having a digital immune system that's constantly learning and evolving.
I like that analogy. And just like a real immune system, it needs to keep learning and evolving. That's why ongoing training in cybersecurity is so important. You can't just, learn it once and be done. You got to stay on top of the latest stuff to stay ahead of the bad guys.
So if you're looking for a career that's challenging and in demand, cybersecurity might be a good option.
It is. And the best part is there are so many resources out there to help you get started. Like on Coursera, they have tons of cybersecurity professional certificates and specializations.
Yeah. They even have one that helps you prepare for the CompTIA Security Plus certification, which is like a globally recognized credential.
It's a great way to show employers what you know and stand out in the job market.
Okay. So that's it for part 1 of our deep dive into the skills of the future.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We just finished a whirlwind tour of global skill trends, and I thought it would be cool to, dive a little deeper into a few regions.
Sounds good. Where should we start?
How about Asia Pacific? It's such a dynamic region, always at the forefront of innovation.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what stood out in the report for them.
Well, one skill that really jumped out at me was stakeholder communication. It's super important in a region as diverse as Asia Pacific. You've got businesses from all over the world operating there, so being able to bridge cultural and linguistic differences, to communicate effectively is a major asset.
Right. Clear communication is key in any project, but especially when you're dealing with people from different backgrounds and different ways of working.
Exactly. It's not just about speaking the same language. It's about understanding different communication styles, building trust, and fostering those strong relationships.
Speaking of strong relationships, I'm thinking about Europe. They're leading the way in data privacy and ethical considerations. What's happening there?
Yeah, as we touched upon earlier, data ethics is a top priority in Europe. It's really interesting to see how this focus on responsible data use is shaping the skills landscape there.
I imagine it goes beyond just, complying with regulations like GDPR, right? It feels like there's a cultural shift happening too.
Yeah, I think you're right. European businesses are becoming more and more aware of, the ethical implications of how they collect and use data. And that awareness is definitely translating into a demand for professionals who can, navigate these complex issues.
So it's not just about knowing the rules, it's about understanding the bigger picture, like the societal impact of data and technology.
Exactly. And that leads us to another skill that's super important in Europe: information management.
Oh yeah, good information management is essential for ensuring data privacy and security, right?
It is, but it's also about efficiency and effectiveness, making sure organizations are managing information well to make smart decisions, improve collaboration, and streamline operations.
Okay, so Europe is all about ethical data use and smart information management. Got it. Now, what about North America? The heart of the tech world.
Yeah, no surprise here. AI and machine learning skills are at the top of the list in North America. I mean, it's where a lot of those big tech companies are based. They're constantly pushing the boundaries of what's possible with AI.
Yeah, it's like the Wild West of AI innovation over there. But is there anything besides, the AI craze that caught your eye?
Yes, actually. Beyond all the AI stuff, we see a big emphasis on workforce development and project management.
Ah, so it's not just about developing the technology. It's about developing the people and processes to, bring those technologies to market effectively.
Exactly. And of course, we can't forget about risk mitigation and control, which seems to be a top priority pretty much everywhere, including North America.
Right. Makes sense. With all these advancements and potential disruptions, organizations need to be ready for anything.
Exactly. They need people who can, anticipate risks, develop strategies to mitigate those risks, and then respond effectively when things, actually happen.
Okay, before we move on, let's take a look at the Middle East and North Africa. That region is going through a lot of changes, both economically and socially.
Yeah, it's a really interesting region to watch. One trend that stands out is the focus on compliance training.
Compliance training. That's interesting. Why do you think that is?
Well, it makes a lot of sense when you consider that many countries in the region are working to diversify their economies and attract foreign investment. They need to make sure they meet those international standards and regulations.
Ah, so it's about building that trust and confidence in the global marketplace.
Exactly. And alongside compliance, we also see a big emphasis on budgeting in the Middle East and North Africa.
Budgeting. So they're not just focused on attracting investment, but also on, managing those investments wisely.
Right. Effective budgeting is essential for ensuring those economic development projects are successful and sustainable over the long term.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've explored skill trends in Asia Pacific, Europe, North America, and the Middle East and North Africa. It's pretty amazing to see how each region is adapting to this changing world of work and prioritizing the skills they need to thrive.
It is, and while there are definitely regional differences, there's also a common thread running through everything. There's this global shift towards a more tech-driven and data-centric world, and that's shaping the skills that are in demand across pretty much every industry.
Right. It's a good reminder that the world of work is becoming more and more interconnected and globalized.
Yeah.
The skills that are valuable in one place are likely to be valuable, everywhere.
Exactly. That's why it's so important to stay informed about these global trends and be willing to, adapt and keep learning throughout your career.
So we've talked a lot about the skills that are in high demand, but what about the skills that are, maybe fading away? What are employers moving away from as we head towards 2025?
That's a good question. While the report doesn't specifically list skills that are declining in demand, I think we can get some clues by looking at the skills that are, really surging ahead.
It's like that game of musical chairs, right?
Yeah.
Some skills are getting those prime spots, while others are left standing when the music stops.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. For example, we see this huge emphasis on AI and automation, right? Which suggests that those skills related to repetitive or manual tasks might, become less valuable over time.
It makes sense. I mean, if a machine can do it faster and cheaper, why would an employer pay a human to do it?
Exactly. It's not to say those skills will completely disappear, but they might become less sought after in certain industries or roles.
So it's all about staying aware of those trends and thinking about how you can adapt your skills to stay ahead of the curve.
Absolutely. Be proactive, invest in your own professional development. Don't wait for your skills to become outdated. Stay ahead of the game by, constantly learning new things and expanding your skill set.
Now, speaking of expanding your skill set, I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier, cybersecurity. I know we talked about it a bit, but it's such a crucial area, it deserves a little more attention.
I completely agree. Cybersecurity is becoming more and more important as our lives become, increasingly intertwined with technology. We're seeing the surge in cyber attacks targeting businesses, governments, even individuals.
Yeah, it can be kind of scary how vulnerable we are online. I mean, one wrong click or a weak password can have some pretty devastating consequences.
It's true. And that's why understanding basic cybersecurity principles is important for everyone, not just for, those working in IT.
So what are some of those key cybersecurity skills that everyone should be focusing on?
Well, like we talked about before, incident management and response is super important. It's about being able to quickly identify and contain security breaches so you can minimize the damage.
So it's like being a digital firefighter, rushing to the scene of a cyber attack and putting out the flames before they spread.
I like that analogy. Another essential skill is threat management and modeling. It's about understanding how different cyber threats work, their patterns, and then figuring out how to prevent them.
So it's like being a digital detective, analyzing clues and patterns to predict and prevent cybercrime.
Exactly. And then, of course, there's CIAM, which we touched on earlier.
Right, CIAM. Security Information and Event Management, that digital alarm system for your network.
Yeah, those CIAM systems are getting really sophisticated using AI and machine learning to detect even the most subtle signs of an attack.
It's amazing how technology is being used to fight cybercrime. But with all this AI and automation, is there a risk that we're becoming too reliant on technology to protect us? What about the human side of cybersecurity?
That's a great point. While technology is definitely playing a bigger role in cybersecurity, the human element is still super important.
So it's not just about having the right tools, it's also about having the right people with the right skills and the right mindset.
Totally. For example, think about security awareness training. Human judgment is still really important there. You can have the most sophisticated security systems, but they're only as strong as your weakest link, which is often human error.
You're right, because all it takes is one employee clicking on a phishing email or using a weak password to compromise a whole network.
Exactly. That's why training and education are so important. They help employees understand those cybersecurity best practices and, avoid those common mistakes.
So it's about creating this culture of security awareness where everyone feels responsible for protecting sensitive information.
Absolutely. And that's where those human skills, communication, collaboration, critical thinking come in. You need to be able to communicate those complex security concepts in a way that everyone understands.
So it's not just about being tech savvy, it's about being a good communicator and a team player.
Exactly. Cybersecurity is a team effort, and it takes all sorts of skills and perspectives to be successful.
Okay, we've talked about the importance of cybersecurity, the key skills, and the role of technology and human judgment. It's such a fascinating field, and it's constantly changing.
It is, and the job growth potential is huge. I mean, as cyber threats continue to grow, the demand for cybersecurity professionals is only going to increase.
So if you're looking for a career that's both challenging and in demand, cybersecurity might be worth checking out.
It is, and there are tons of resources available online and through schools to help you get started no matter what your background is.
Sounds like a field where you can really learn and grow.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've gone deep on cybersecurity, which I think leads perfectly into our next topic, the changing nature of work itself. How is technology, especially AI and automation, changing the way we work?
Whoa, that's a big question. It's one that a lot of people are thinking about, and rightfully so. The truth is, AI and automation are already changing how we work in huge ways, and these changes are only going to get bigger in the next few years.
Yeah, it can be a little scary. It's hard to predict the future and know if our jobs will be, replaced by robots.
I get that, but it's also a super exciting time. We have the opportunity to shape this future, to use technology to make work more meaningful, more fulfilling, and, more equitable.
I love that perspective. So let's break down some of the ways AI and automation are changing the workplace.
Well, the most obvious impact is job displacement. As machines become more capable of doing tasks that humans used to do, some jobs will inevitably disappear.
It's the classic fear of robots taking our jobs, right? But is it really that simple? Are we just going to see, mass unemployment?
I don't think it's that straightforward. While some jobs will definitely be lost, many others will be transformed. We're likely to see a shift towards jobs that require those higher level skills. Critical thinking, creativity, problem solving.
So it's not necessarily a battle of humans versus machines. It's more like humans and machines working together.
Right. Exactly. We need to think about how to use technology to make humans better at their jobs, not to replace them completely.
It's like having a superpower sidekick to help us work smarter and faster.
Love that. And the best part is, this human-machine collaboration could create new jobs that we can't even imagine yet.
So it's not all doom and gloom. There's potential for job growth and like a whole wave of innovation.
Absolutely. But it's important to remember that this transition won't be easy. There will be challenges, and we need to be ready to adapt and upskill to stay relevant.
So what can people do to prepare for this future of work? What skills should they focus on to make sure they don't get left behind?
Well, as we've talked about, skills like AI and data literacy are super important. It's not enough to just know how to use technology. You got to understand how it works, how to analyze data, and how to use those insights to solve problems.
So it's about becoming more than just a user. It's about becoming more of an active participant in the tech world.
Exactly. And those human skills are super important too. Skills like communication, collaboration, critical thinking, problem solving, they're even more valuable as machines take over those more routine tasks.
It's a good reminder that even in a tech-driven world, it's those human qualities that make us special.
I totally agree. And I think it's crucial to emphasize adaptability and that willingness to learn. The world of work is changing so fast, and the skills that are hot today might be outdated tomorrow.
So it's not just about getting one specific skill set. It's about being able to learn and grow and adapt.
Exactly. The most successful people in the future will be those who are curious, adaptable, and always ready to take on new challenges.
Okay, so we've covered the impact of AI and automation, the skills that are in demand, and the importance of adaptability and lifelong learning. It's a lot to process, but it's also super exciting to think about the possibilities.
It is, and I think it's important to remember that we have the power to shape this future. We can choose to use technology to create a better world where work is more meaningful and fulfilling for everyone.
I love that. We're not just watching this tech revolution happen, we're part of it.
Yeah.
And we can influence how it unfolds.
Absolutely. We can use AI to automate those boring tasks and free up our time for more creative and fulfilling work. We can use it to improve healthcare, education, and so many other areas of our lives.
It's all about using tech to empower us, not replace us.
Exactly. And that brings us to our final point, the importance of human skills. Even in the world that's becoming more and more tech-driven, it's our uniquely human qualities that will set us apart.
Right. We're talking about things like critical thinking, creativity, communication, empathy, collaboration, those soft skills that machines just can't replicate.
You got it. These are the skills that will help us thrive in a world where machines can handle those routine tasks. They'll help us connect with people, build relationships, and solve complex problems.
So, as we look ahead to the future of work, let's not forget the power of being human. Let's develop those skills that make us unique and use them to create a future where technology makes our lives better and creates a more just world for everyone.
Well said. It's a super exciting time to be alive, full of possibilities and challenges. But if we embrace lifelong learning, stay curious, and nurture our human connections, we can navigate this future of work with confidence and purpose.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. We hope you learned a lot and feel inspired to embrace this future of work. Now let's wrap up our exploration of the future of work in part 3.
Okay, so welcome back to the deep dive. We've really dug into the future of work in this episode. I feel like I've learned so much.
Yeah, it's been pretty intense. We've gone from that global explosion of AI to those human skills that, are always going to be important.
So much to think about. But now it's time to bring it all together, right?
Now, what are the big takeaways, the things our listeners should remember as they navigate this crazy world of work?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the first one is staring us in the face. That generative AI revolution, we can ignore it. The demand for those skills is off the charts. It's only going to get bigger.
Right. It's like everyone's jumping on the GenAI bandwagon.
Yeah.
But it's not just about the tools themselves, right? It's about understanding the bigger picture.
Exactly. It's about knowing how GenAI is transforming industries, how it's creating opportunities, and even the potential challenges that come with it.
So we need to be smart about how we use this technology.
Absolutely. And that kind of leads us to the second big takeaway, adaptability and continuous learning. I mean, the skills that are hot today might not even exist tomorrow.
It's so true. That saying, the only constant is change, it's never been more relevant. But how do people actually do that? Like, how do they embrace lifelong learning? It can be overwhelming.
I get it. It can be. But you don't have to do everything at once. Just start small. Figure out which skills will be most valuable in your field, and then, explore the resources that are out there. Online courses, workshops, mentorship programs, there are so many options.
It's like, finding what works for you and making learning a habit.
Exactly. And don't be scared to, step outside your comfort zone and try something new. This future of work, it's going to reward those who are curious, adaptable, those who aren't afraid to experiment.
Yeah, that's good advice. Now, throughout this whole episode, we've talked a lot about, the rise of technology, especially AI and automation. And I think it's easy to feel like a little anxious about it all. It's kind of scary.
It is. I mean, it's natural to feel uncertain when everything's changing so fast, especially with all this tech stuff happening. But I think we need to remember that we have a choice, We're not just watching this happen. We can actually shape it.
You're right. We have the power to decide how these technologies are used and developed. We can choose to focus on the opportunities they create and, work towards a future where tech benefits everyone.
Exactly. We can use AI to get rid of those boring tasks, free up time so we can focus on more creative and fulfilling work. We can use it to improve healthcare, education, so many things.
Yeah, using tech to empower us, not replace us.
Exactly. And that takes us to our final takeaway, human skills. No matter how much tech takes over, those human skills will always be what sets us apart.
Right. Those things like critical thinking, creativity, communication, empathy, collaboration, all that stuff.
Exactly. Those are the skills that will help us thrive in a world where machines can do those routine tasks. They're what will help us connect with each other, build relationships, and solve those really complex problems.
So as we face this future of work, we can't forget the power of being human. Let's focus on those skills that make us unique and use them to shape a future where tech makes our lives better and helps create a fairer world.
I love that. It really is a super exciting time, full of possibilities, and challenges too. But if we commit to lifelong learning, stay curious, and really value our human connections, we can face this future with confidence and purpose.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the future of work, everyone. We hope you learned something new and feel ready to embrace whatever's coming next. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and, keep exploring.